I'm going to ask you a question. How do you think Gasperini feels about this window right now? Do you think he's content? Do you think he's happy? Do you think he's upset? I'm going to go with disgruntled. And today, guys, what we're going to do, I'm not going to take up too much of your time. This is not going to be an hour-long thing assessing, deep diving every player, but we're going to give every incoming player a rating here. And I want you to throw some comments in. Let me know what you think. If you're watching this as a recording, this is actually live. You can also let me know what you think in the comments as well. I know we've had a couple new people here. All right, Ferguson. This player has been very exciting, and you can see I've already started to smile, right? So let's look at the Evan Ferguson contract real quick. I'm going to bring it up here, and that contract for Roma, see if Google can do this really quickly, as it can these days. Option to buy for approximately $40 million. I thought it was actually a little bit more. $40 million for Evan Ferguson. What do we think of that? This was a player who was highly rated before his injury with Brighton. There was rumors he would go for 60, 70, 80 million pounds at one point. So like maybe even upwards of 90 million euros. Suffers that injury, fails to get on at West Ham. And Roma take advantage of that. Massara, I think, did a good job here. And I'm not going to congratulate him and say he did an excellent job for the entirety of this episode. However, I think this was a very good selection. And we see just exactly what he's capable of, what he can do for Gasperini. He presses. He is somebody who's excellent with the link-up play. He just made an assist this past weekend to Sule, who scored the only goal of the match. And on top of that, he's got a great shot. Is he the finished product? Of course not. He's like 20, 21. But I think that if we're going to rate Ferguson, you can let me know what you think. This one has got to be a 8.5 is what I'm going to go with. So let me edit this real quick. Ferguson, 8.5. And why do I not give it the full 10? Why don't I not think? Why am I not maybe perhaps a little bit more optimistic? And I think that comes back to, okay, there, I got to save it. There we go. 8.5. So I think that comes back to the fact that it's an expensive option. I understand that prices are different in the Premier League, but we're looking at a player who did have a big injury. So if he does exceed all expectations and he scores 20 goals at the end of the season, he's still injury prone, or he still had a massive injury at a young age, which suggests we know how this goes. It could happen further down the line. If you pay 40 million euros for that player, if you're West Ham, it's not that big of a deal. If you're Chelsea, you don't blink twice. But if you're Roma, it's an entirely different ball game. And you have to be careful with your purchases even more than your sales sometimes. And a bad spending year at Roma can derail them for like half a generation, which is what we saw under Monchi. Do I think it's a great purchase? Do I like it? Yeah, I do. Was there a bit of overspending? Just a touch. I think that this is a better option at 30, 30 plus 2, 30 plus 4, with all conditions being met. But at 40, that would be one of Roma's, if not record. What was Schick? 42 million euros? So just almost right there. And Roma hasn't touched those figures since acquiring that player. I think we should move on or over to Giallorossi here. I think this was another good move. Why? Because it fits the mold of a young player who lowers the salary, who is capable, plays in the Italian national team for the U21s already, is in that type of setup, is somebody who can cover for Mancini at center back, or he can slide over to left center back or right center back. So he's got that versatility. He's got the frame on him. He's big, he's tall, he's fast, he's hungry. He's a great tackler, which we've seen so far. And he can slot in. He can immediately become a starter for less than 15 million euros. That's why I like this one a lot. I'm going to actually go with, because he's not Leone, and because he's actually somebody who is a little bit more on the peripherals, but who still has like that ability to become really good, I'm going to go 9. And maybe some of you are rolling your eyes already thinking like, oh, Wayne, here he is, cheery and, trying to be overly optimistic. We're not there yet. Telling you, stay with me here. Wesley, 25 plus 5 for a player who's still pretty raw, but we've seen what he could do. He's already scored, part of the Brazilian national team. Is 25 fair player for a player like that? Probably. That's probably right in the wheelhouse of what you could expect to play. Would I have liked this deal to be 18 plus 4? I would have. Yeah, I definitely think that that's more in that aligned with Roma's transfer and spending policy from what we've seen thus far and trying to get those finances under control. However, I think he's going to be a great player. I think he's very capable. We've seen that thus far. He needs some ironing out tactically. That's fine. He's very young. He's like 20, 21 years old too, about the same age as Ferguson. He's got a lot of playing. He's got his whole career in front of him. What type of player could this become? We know that Gasperini's wingbacks are not really wingbacks. What they are old school midfielders, more akin to what you would see in a 4-4-2, which you just call outside midfielders. They're not wingers. They don't play in a 3. They're just outside midfielders. So Wesley, to me, 25 plus 5, that comes out to, that's fair. So how do we rate fair? Fair in the middle is 5 or a 6. I think that if this player were to be sold today, I think you could go ahead and easily get an extra 10 million for him. Let's say in January, right? Or somebody big sees him and they're like, we really love that player. I could see him go to an even bigger club at this point, just because in the early games here, he's come over, he's shown that he is capable, that he can play ball. He's very fast. He's got incredible legs on him. So just because I want that price lower, I'm going with this price here. So far, so good. And I'm going to take a little break here to look at the comments. We've got our friend Ben here. He's been on the channel once or twice lately. He's happy to hear. Who's been, guys, since our friend Vincenzo. Fergie goes 9 for Vincenzo. So that was, what did I put? I went 8.5. Okay. So very close there. Ben goes 7.5 to 8. Cautious optimism for the baggage. Stazione Romanista is here and says hello. Hello, my friend. Vincenzo says Wesley raw, but also very fast. And Angelo Iannato is here. What's up, Angelo? Thank you. Yes, so I don't have on a very Roma shirt. It's a bunch of, what are these? Egrets? Ibises? There's some flirting bird. My grandma gave me this shirt. It's one of my favorites. At first, I was like, Grandma, I don't need that shirt. But then I wear it every other day. It's, yeah, sentimental reasons. My poor Nona. Anyway, want to take this minute too. If you guys have never looked at one of my pins, I'm going to put them in the comment section here as well. I would love for you to pick one of these up. Not because I'm trying to make money. I don't really make too much money off of these. But because it's something I made specifically for Roma fans. I'm going to share my screen here real quick. Just take a little detour off of the transfer mercato ratings. Okay, here's your Daya pin. It says excluding sales tax. I don't think there is any sales tax. I could be wrong. If it is, it's maybe $50. $12. I'll ship it to you if you're in USA or Canada. I'll send you a nice little card as well, and we can continue being friends. No, I'm kidding. But check that out. So it is something which I thought about this a lot, and it is designed off the drum that you see here. This is from Comandos Otras Curva Sud, which was the uniting force which put all the different factions together in the Curva Sud, and is kind of why you see Roma's support so prolific that they are today. So let me just put that tag in the comments section here, and it'll be in the bio of this YouTube episode as well. But let's get back to the good stuff. Okay, so we're looking at these names, right? El Ainaoui, he's next. 20 plus 5 for a player who comes over from France. Was he that good for Rennes? Well, they say that he was the engine of that team, and that's why he was brought over, right? He's versatile. He's supposed to be like that Pasalic. I just saw a comment come in from Mohammed, and I'll address that too. So to be that versatile guy, it's a good move. However, I think once again, 5 million overpaid. 20 plus 5, I don't know. How about 15 plus 3? That sounds to me like a lot better of a deal. And I think that, I didn't hear that he was pursued by other teams. I didn't hear anything crazy about him, that when the Premier League wanted him, or Milan, even for that. El Ainaoui was, I think, overpaid. I think that it's not that he was very good to warrant that money. I think he was a prospect. He was a decent French player for a mid-table French side, and I think 20 plus 5 is too much for him. So for me, and also the fact that Rio sticks out a little bit, and I'm not thrilled with not getting him, I'm going to go El Ainaoui with a 6. And I think that's probably a touch generous. So there you go. El Ainaoui 6. On to Arena. This kid comes over from Pescara. I'm going to pull up a picture from him. And he was already called up. You can't put Arena Roma because it just comes up pictures of the Coliseum. I got to put in Giocatore. Okay, here we are. So comes over from Pescara, 16 years old, is born in 2009. And there's a little bio here from Di Marzio. If you want to use translator, if you speak Italian, either way, I'm going to post that in the comments here. You can go ahead and check that out, a little bit more about him. But he's already been called up, and he has surprised Gasperini. So this to me is like little risk and a lot of upside. Of course, there was another player that Roma let go from their Primavera today for just 1 million euros. Coletta, I think was his name. Supposed to be highly rated. Not thrilled with that at the least. So let's see what this kid can do. Let's see if he gets some minutes. That might be something interesting that we get there. So Arena, it's not fair to go in and say like, oh, a perfect 10 because of just the upside. Also the fact that he was brought in as a Primavera player. So let's just put NA because I don't think that's fair to give. On to our next player though, and we're gonna go with the man from Jamaica, from our side of the planet, not too far from New Jersey, about a 2.5-hour flight. A lot of Jamaicans where I live. And Bailey is their man, right? Their national team player. He's the Fantasista of Jamaica. And he's already hurt. He hasn't played a single game. The day that he came over, what was it, a 3 million euro loan, right? And the option, something like 22 million euros. There is a full option on that. I heard, or I was told something like that if Roma qualify for the Champions League, that activation would automatically activate. I don't think that is the case. I think that Roma undoubtedly has the option here, which is a great thing because we see that with his injury issues, match day 1, could he be explosive? Yeah. So I think that it's premature to rate the Bailey move just based on his injury history. Let's see what he could do. Let's see what he could provide for the rest of the season. Bailey is somebody who could play on the left or the right. As a kid, he played on the left. For Aston Villa, he played on the right, and in Germany, where he had at least one good season. Some Aston Villa fans were telling me, don't get too excited about him. You're not going to be thrilled with what you see. So far, of course not. Because there's little risk here, I'm going to go with, you know what? He's still injury prone. He's not that young either. I'm going 6. I don't think this is an excellent move. And I think that even if you activate that, that's an expensive option for a player who's, like we said, has that injury history. And, what is he seen as? Is he the second string guy behind Sule, behind Dybala, or I should say the third string? Is he the left wing? Not really, right? Because he's left-footed. So he's the third left wing in this squad. What is that? I understand there's a lot of depth to be had here, but this is not typically the type of player that you would use for that depth. Ziolkowski, another player who reminds me of Giallorossi, not in the way that he plays, but in the ideas that he is a prospect. He's also another tall player. He's been likened to Huijsen. I don't know if that's entirely accurate. I wouldn't say that's too fair because Huijsen's becoming an incredible player, but also fits that mold of lowering the salaries, not a crazy transfer fee, keeps things in check. Maybe he appreciates you double your money next year if he becomes good. Maybe he becomes great and you keep him and you give him a bigger contract next year. Those are the types of moves which are going to make Roma strong in the long run. So I'm going to go Ziolkowski. Because I like this, I'm going to overrate it here. And I'm just going to tell you I'm not going to give anything for Vasquez because I don't care. Golini was sent away because he has a bad relationship with Gasperini, so we're just going to put NA for that as well. So we're shaping up here. If you want to average that out, we're probably somewhere around a 7, maybe 7.3, if I'm going to guess my maths. Tsimikas comes over, Greek player, left back. His name's Kostas. We had another Greek player named Kostas who had a very good career. And what do we got? We got a loan, quite an expensive loan, but that's fine. Or at least Roma's covering his salary, right? He's going to be covered for Angelino, but people say that he's actually very good. And there could be even some moments where he might start matches over even a healthy Angelino. Or is it Angelino? Commentators always mess up with the way they pronounce his name. But by the way, guys, I see a bunch of people in here. Keep writing in those comments. I see all of them coming in. And if you're new here as well, you could subscribe. That would be really cool. Don't be a stranger. We love to chat on this channel. So let's keep it moving. Tsimikas will go, once again, little upside, but not a permanent player. We'll go that's I don't know, 7. I think that's fair. A 7. I got to save this. Here we go. Good. All right. So this might look good. We could say Massara did a great job, but we're doing ratings here. Now we need to move on to, I think, a bigger subject. Is Gasperini happy? And I asked that in the very beginning of this episode. Before I go into that, I want to see what you have to say. Is Gasperini thrilled? Is he upset? Is he content? All right. Vincenzo says they call it Le Royale with cheese over there. I don't know what these guys are talking about. Ben says Gilardi is a 7.5/8. He's still a prospect. Good long-term option. Learning from Mancini. Yes, very good point here. Neil, a number 8. He is number 8, but also an 8 rating. Just needs a chance to acclimate amid a crowded midfield. Very true. Ben gives Wesley an 8.5. Vincenzo says, for Gasperini's system, the striker and wingbacks outside mids are the most important. And I think Massara hit on those positions. That's a good shout there by Vincenzo. And Angelo says Lorenzo is holding us hostage. And that brings us to our next part here, guys. The fact that Massara could not get any offers for Lorenzo, could not get rid of him, it's not my job. Look, I understand there might not have been any good offers. There's conversations that need to be taken place. The board doesn't want you. That's been publicly stated by Gasperini. The fact that he could not get Pellegrini out of the club, and I know that people are not going to like, especially if you're from Rome and you're watching this, you're not going to like the way that I talk about the captain. I'm not sentimental about him because I don't think he's that good. And he's been sucking wages from this club for 3 years with very little performances aside from that great goal we saw last time in the derby. The fact that he's still at the team is holding them back big time, guys. And if Pellegrini had left, I think maybe we would have saw that left wing come in. If Dovbyk had left, but whose fault is that? Gisolfi? Dovbyk, was La Liga leading goal scorers, but it's not just that you score a lot of goals. Inzaghi scored a lot of goals. Corradi in one season scored a lot of goals. Who else? Paloschi. They scored a lot of goals, but they weren't great footballers. And that's exactly Dovbyk's problem. He's not very good. He's okay in the box. And in La Liga, where they attack all the time, attack, all right, he scored a bunch of goals. Overall, as a footballer, as a striker, I don't think Dovbyk is that good. I'm not hot on him. Coach K is popping in. What's up, Coach? How are you? Gonna see tomorrow if anyone's a teacher out there. We got a big day tomorrow. Everyone's going back. And speaking of going back, I should be thinking about my job, right? My day job pays the bills, allows me to live in my house and feeds my family. But because I'm such an addict, I want to tell you a little anecdote here. It's 4:30 a.m. My son wakes up, howling. He's probably got some stomach pains. I'm checking my phone, 4:30. I can't even see. And I'm telling you, I'm an addict for this stuff because I'm checking nonstop. If you're like me, and I know the people who are 12 people in here right now, I know you are too. This was a very nerve-wracking day. You're refreshing your screen from your favorite journalists and websites and watching it on TV, who's coming in on deadline day. This is not a calm day at all. This is the one that makes players, or I should say makes fans feel alive or dead at the end of the day. I'm not sure which ones. Some are hopeful, some are disappointed. And while we look at these ratings, I'm glad for them. Trust me. But I don't think Massara did the 50% remaining of his job. And if we're talking about teachers, like I am going back to work tomorrow, if you do 50% of your job, that's an F. So how do we possibly rate Massara in his first season back in Rome? And I'm not thrilled. Pellegrini not getting rid of Dovbyk, is that his fault? No, he walked into it. Ultimately, it's your job. It falls on you. You have to walk in those big shoes and make these big decisions as part of your job. You're a sporting director, right? Whether that's a Saudi offer or Qatar, wherever. Dovbyk should have been persuaded to leave when those Leeds offer or the West Ham offer came in, or Fulham, who can't score a goal to save their lives. Why didn't he go? And you got to get rid of them. The wages, the transfer fees that could have brought in. He could have went to Milan. That didn't happen. That probably is more of Milan's issue, more of their fault for not being able to get Jimenez out of the way. So for those two players, I'm going to bring up another point too. Bailey, injury prone. But you know what he does? He absorbs the non-EU slot. And when you do that, that means you cannot get other players who are outside of the European Union. If you want to get Pulisic or whoever, Diego Luna, who would have actually been a decent left wing to go and get, you can't because the slots filled up because they don't have European citizenship. Also, if anyone's been doing their Italian citizenship, if you're like me, you're third or fourth generation, your great grandparents is your lineage, you can't get it anymore. That's just a side comment there. Anyway, so I think he failed in Pellegrini. He failed in what did I say? In Dovbyk, and in not getting, or I should say, filling in that EU position with somebody who's injury prone, who can take in big wages too, like Bailey does. But also, you know what is most upsetting? The fact that he did not get a left wing. There were a lot of speculation, a lot of deals taking place behind the scenes. I'm just gonna go to the situation here. What was happening on deadline day? I'm gonna post this. There you go. So check that out. These were the three names being slotted by the media. Tyreek George, whose deal collapsed. I think that was to Fulham, actually, speaking of them. Benjamin Dominguez, Roma offered 10 plus 2, is the rumor going around right now. Not enough. Bologna declined. Dominguez probably would have loved to join his Argentinian compadres. He would have definitely filled that gap, although I don't think he was the perfect winger for Gasperini. He's more crafty. He's more of a creator. I think that Roma would have benefited from a more direct left wing, and which is why Sancho actually probably would have worked out. I don't know. What did Sancho do? I'm going to look this up. Did I read he went to Villa? Yeah, loan move to Aston Villa. That's an interesting move for him. So, whatever. That's the last we'll speak about Sancho. Verona do not buy Baldanzi. That was supposed to free in Pessina. So, probably because they couldn't secure any left wing, Baldanzi's not sold. Because Baldanzi's not sold, Pessina doesn't come in. Because Pessina doesn't come in, Roma's not reinforced in midfield. And I was wondering, should Roma have just gotten Derun? Like, gone in and put a, I don't know, 5 million offer for Derun? I know he's old. He's like 34, younger than me. But I think that could have been a pragmatic purchase. Jimenez does not come in for an exchange with Dovbyk, so nothing happens there. And I think that this is 50% of the job, and this is why I can't give him a great rating. This is why I'm not thrilled with Massara today, guys. You can let me know if you disagree, but maybe I should feel more optimistic. There's a way of thinking, too, that I'm going to take this off. And Ranieri addressed this previously, like in May. He's May or early June. He said whoever comes in, they're not going to have a big transfer window because the restrictions against financial fair play were still limiting Roma. But what about that money that they were about to splash on Fabio Silva? That was probably related to Dovbyk, right? Dovbyk goes out, the transfer money comes in, they do a loan for a year, and if they want to activate it, they can on an option, or the obligation hits the next year. And that's all accounting type of stuff. So that's what happened with that. That's why you got no Fabio Silva. That's why Krstovic signed for Atalanta. That's one I really wish had happened, but you got to live with it. You got to respect players' contracts, right? You can't blame them. You can't just kick them out. So it works both ways. Sometimes people will say that players are greedy because they sit out or they do whatever. They're under contract. And sometimes people will say that clubs do the wrong thing for them. There's both ways of thinking here. So, but that's why Roma missed some objectives. Could they have gotten a left wing? Should they have gotten a left wing? Unequivocally, yes. If you look at some of the most important players for Gasperini in the best years that he had for Atalanta, we could say in the past 5 years, we've got Papu Gomez, Ilicic, Lookman, De Ketelaere. What's the commonality between them? They're wingers. And for Gomez, for Papu and Lookman, they were left wingers who played with their right foot and were excellent. Can Baldanzi be that guy? I think Baldanzi's a left footer. Anyway, yeah, he's a left footed player. So he's not going to be it. Could it be El Shaarawy? Come on. We know El Shaarawy has lost a step, guys. So that's a position I really rue. And I think Massara should have done 100% better. Let me know what you think. I think we covered everything. The EU slot being taken up by a pretty broken player as far as we can see thus far. Pellegrini situation, Dovbyk situation, the left wing not there. But Roma do bring in some pretty good pieces. They have made the defense significantly younger. They've added some legs in midfield, although Cristante is still starting. That's okay. Like, you got to love Cristante at this part. Maybe you don't. But to me, he's like one of those guys who He doesn't do anything flashy, but he keeps the ball in circulation. He knows exactly where to go. He's played under Gasperini. He knows the coach. That's fine. I'm thrilled with Ferguson. Puts Dovbyk on the bench, whose value is probably just going to plummet over until the January mercato opens. Wesley, thrilled with him. And as our friend Vincenzo pointed out, that's a player who was very important to Gasperini's play. I'm going to go through a couple of the comments here as well. Ben says, Pellegrini, when he's on fire, like in Marino's first year, is hella vibes. But he's on like chance 3 or 4. Yeah, this is chance 4 for Pellegrini. And when you make €6 million a year, you shouldn't need more than one chance. Angelo said Lorenzo's one top moment last season was, who remembers, it was the derby. So that ball fell to Pellegrini at the top of the 18, and he had a player who was overlapping with a pass, used him as a decoy, pushed it to his right, and slotted it right past Lazio's keeper. That was my favorite memory and my only memory of Pellegrini last season. Ben says, this summer felt like one big 1-1 draw at home. We scored right away, vibes were good, then conceded right in the second half, then nothing for the rest of the game. Pretty missed. That's an excellent metaphor. Jackie's tuning in, says, Massara gets like a 6 for the window. He did address a few positions, but left wing, yeah, was a big issue that he wasted so much on multiple targets. Not getting rid of Pellegrini, Dovbyk, and Golini also hurts. Vincenzo says, we can't get citizenship. Nope, cannot. So great-grandparents, you're out. You can't be Italian anymore. What does that mean for me? I don't know. How does Monza bully us like that? Yeah, for Pessina, a Serie A player. He's under contract. They're fighting to get back into Serie A. They've got a decently strong ownership, so that's a bummer, though. Like, you couldn't even get Pessina in Massara. You couldn't do anything. Like, he's not even that young, but he's their captain. A C+, says Ben. Angela, thumbs up. And Shervin says, hello, why do you have to play on the left? Maybe you mean, why is it important? Because that's one of the most important positions for Gasperini, for overloads, for being direct in the attack, for combining with the striker. All of those things is why it is so important. All right, guys. Throw in those comments, throw in some likes, and we will talk soon. We are going on international break. What do things look like? So we've got a bunch of call-ups. Maybe we should go over that really quick before we end here. The next match is Torino, Sunday, September 14th. That's in, 2 weeks. That's very early, 6:30 a.m. match. Maybe I'll go to Roma Club New York for that, for some maritozzi that they make at Keste. Nice, hot, fresh, delicious Roman pastry. Let's look at those Italy call-ups real quick. Just pulling it up. I didn't expect to do this. So, what do we got? No, just a... Oh, by the way, I was very upset that Roma could not get like Trossard or Chiesa. Those were the 2 players I would have loved. So, here we go. Share this tab. There we go. I'm going to share this. Make sure it's sharing with you. Okay. Keepers, Carnesecchi. He's my starter. Donnarumma, Meret, and Vicario. I love Carnesecchi. I think he's fantastic. Defenders, Bastoni, Bellanova, Calafiori, Cambiaso, Di Lorenzo, Di Marco, Gatti, Leone, Mancini. So just one representative from Roma thus far. Then we've got Barella, Fratesi, Locatelli, Rovella. My son's crying. You guys can look at this. We'll talk later. Thanks for throwing those chats in. All right, guys. Sorry to end it right here, but I got to run. We'll see you soon.